Kristen. Welcome to the Lost World Museums live here on YouTube. And tonight we are going to have a very special program on the formation of stalactites and stalagmites as it relates to the age of the Earth and whether or not the evolution proposition is correct. That is modern geology as we understand it today. Or did the geology of Sir Isaac Newton, that has been almost altogether obscured and lost, is it still relevant today? And that's the idea that there was a worldwide flood and that the waymarks that we see today give us some indication that there was a worldwide flood. Now, one of the things we're going to talk about is the rapid formation, or is it slow formation, of those really cool looking limestone looking stalactites and stalagmites that we see in the caves. I don't know if anybody out there have ever gone to one of those caves, Mammoth Cave, Howe Cavern, Carlsbad Cavern. If you have, just indicate which one in the comment section that you've been, and if you remember specifically how long they said it took to form these. I'd be very interesting. Whether this is the replay and you put it in the comments section, feel free to do that because it'd be nice to see a collection of information regarding firsthand experience from you folks out there. Now, we got a few things to show you tonight. And I'm going to start off by showing this. And Kristen's got some, well, she went on a field trip. Where'd you go?
Canada.
You went to Canada. That's right.
Yeah.
And you got some things from Canada.
I did. I came home with some stuff. Actually had to ship some of it. It's just easier than trying to cart it home. But I went to some really cool things, and we'll tell you about that in a minute.
Yep, she's got a show and tell that is really cool. Okay, so this right here, you may very well recognize, and this was not in a cave, and it's approximately, say, maybe a little over 3 inches long. This, my friends, came from New Brunswick, Canada, from a bridge that was built in 1940. Take another look at this. 1940, and this little bad boy formed sometime during its 80-year existence. I think it part of it is still there. 80 years. Well, how long do you think the experts would say this took to form if I didn't tell them where it was from? Well, it wouldn't be fair in part because context is everything. So,
but their assumption is millions of years. If you don't give them context, if you don't tell them where you got it, they will tell you millions of years. And then when you tell them, then they switch their tune.
Right. So let me give you just a real quick, if you get on the internet and search for how long does it take to form a stalactite or stalagmite, you're going to be there for a while extracting the information that I'm going to give to you in this program because it's kind of hard to find. It's not like definitive. So I'm going to give you a collection of modern day geology's assumptions and understanding of it. Okay. The swath, between, for this to form, approximately this size to form, is going to be anywhere. And, it does depend. Everybody agrees to this. The amount of minerals in the water, the heat, the temperature of the water, the amount of carbon dioxide in the moisture, in the water, and also too, or is that in the air? Well, regardless, the amount of carbon dioxide that's available in the formation of this. And also, I was going to say the flow of water.
Yeah, flow is very important.
Yeah. So, you got a little bit of water, you got a little bit of drip, it's going to be slower. A lot more water is going to be much quicker. So since nobody's there to observe it then, we have to make the assumption now that it was slow drip, drip, drip. I get it. And if you are starting from the position that it's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or a million years, old Earth, then obviously you're going to be biased. And there's nothing wrong with being biased. Everybody is biased to some degree or another. But your starting point of old Earth is going to naturally assume certain things that make these much older than they really are. And that's our conclusion. This would take anywhere between 50 to 677 years to form if we had nothing to go by other than the range of how fast these form. That means 10 centimeters, which is almost about this, about 5 inches, can take 1,000 years. If you go on the high end, that is the 677 year end, that is the slowest formation. And that's not even the slowest, but that was just one range that was given. 1 inch equals, 10 centimeters or 5 inches equals 1,000 years. Now, that means 1 centimeter equals 100 years. That means this would take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 600 years to form. But we know that's not true. It took a little less than 80 years to form this. All right. The tour guides typically will tell you 1 centimeter for every 1,000 years. Okay? And the longest stalactite or stalagmite in the world is in Brazil, and it's 92 feet. 92 feet. Now, I'm going to show you a plaque from France. This plaque was created in a calcite cave where there is water free flowing with the calcite material on it. They have these rubber molds that they put in where this water is flowing, and this is the back of it, and it's about a half an inch, maybe is that a centimeter, would you say?
Yeah.
About a centimeter?
But build up on it, not as much. I mean, if the plaque is this thick,
That's true.
then it's...
That's true. A little more than a centimeter. And I believe this took about 6 months to form. It's kind of cute. It's rubber. It's a mold. So they let the calcite water, flow in and out of it. And after 6 to 8 months, this right here, and this is hard. This is solid. 6 to 8 months. So let's just say 1 centimeter equals 8 months. Now, from a creationist perspective, that geology happened catastrophically and very quickly, those caverns would have been cut out and then dripped with massive amounts of water. That's the assumption. So from a creationist perspective, using this right here as a method of dating the timing of it, you would have a stalactite or stalagmite, what do I get here in my 50 feet, 1,000 years. I live with that. 1,000 years for a 50-foot stalactite or stalagmite from the rate of flow and the amount of mineralization.
So the basic idea is post-flood, you've got a lot of limestone that this water that's running off is going down through, and there's a lot of minerals in the water, and so you've got deposition at a rapid rate. Now nowadays, if you looked at the amount of minerals in water that's flowing through caves, there's not that much. And so it's not only the rate of the water is slow, but the amount of minerals in it. So it just doesn't have the same conditions as it did post-flood, when there was a lot more minerals, a lot more water, and a lot faster flow. So that's why post-flood, theoretically, those stalactites and stalagmites could have formed really quickly.
So now we're going to do some show and tell. Kristen went to Canada, and why don't you tell a little bit about where you went and what you have here?
Okay, so I went partly to interview the guy that he's got a really cool series of books, Untold Secrets of Planet Earth, and one of them is called Catastrophic Caves. And really, really cool information in these books. So it's neat not just to know him, but I wanted to take and research some of these places and actually see them. I like to lay eyeballs on it and actually experience it for myself. And so what I did was, one of the places he tells about in the book is a mineral springs called Fairmount. And like when you go to it, it looks like when you first pull up, it looks like a normal facility and a normal big, more commercial sized pool. And it's beautiful, clear blue water, clean, and stuff like that. But they have to drain that every single night and clean it out with the special material, or substance. Otherwise, it would just, coat right up and grow rock, basically, rock minerals. Anyway, so they empty it, and I wanted to see where they empty it because he had pictures in the book of where the pipe has emptied the water out every night. It had this like big, huge stalactite looking thing. And so I wanted to see that. And then also I'd heard that like the whole area, like you could walk for a long ways, and supposedly there was more of it. And so I did. And it was absolutely amazing. In the old area where I suspect the water isn't really being released as much anymore, you can find things again that look like stalactites, but they tend to be, if you can see inside there, you see how there's holes? What happens is, and I'll show you something that'll kind of make more sense. Now, these two are not from the same area. They're from a bridge. And I want to show you, can you see the hole in that? Those are stalactites from a bridge, and they're growing regularly underneath this bridge. And what happens when water is from like rain, or when it's periodic, like when they were dumping it every night out of that pipe, what happens is it ends up being, it has holes in it, and it's not solid the way a normal, like other stalactites are going to be more solid than that, not quite so flimsy and delicate, I guess you might say. So anyway, that's what I saw up where the old area was. Now, let me find here, where's the other? When you walk farther downstream, I think this pipe, the second pipe I saw was probably a new pipe, and it's probably where they're dumping it now. And so you see like hot springs. I mean, it was gorgeous, and people were down there sitting in the first pool where the water first landed was hot, and then the next pool was medium, and then it got, cooler, and then we got to the stream, it was, quite cold. But anywhere that water ran, it got coated. So like that's a stick on the end, and it got coated. That was a little bit more uniform. What happened to a lot of them is they ended up looking like drumsticks.
And that's a stick? That's a wooden stick?
So that's a stick at the end. And it would do it to anything. It would do it to grass, to hair, to sticks, to, I mean, literally I saw everything under the sun, and no matter what it covered, it covered it in calcite, like, which most people would think this is just stone, but what it's doing is it's calcite. It is the same thing that a stalactite is made out of, like in a cave. But what happens is the processes are slightly different, but they end up with the same thing. So I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about it, but when you read his book, for example, his explanation basically said that like 20 years ago, scientists would argue, oh, well, I mean, stalactites that are growing underneath a bridge or growing quickly, that's not even really calcite. Now they know it for real is 100% chemically indistinguishable calcite, but it's being formed in two different ways. One is off-gassing carbon dioxide, and one is gaining carbon dioxide, but they end up both being calcite. So regardless of the conditions that they form, what he's saying in this book is giving example after example all around the world and all through history. It's fascinating that it can form quickly. It's not that stalactites need millions of years. They just need the right conditions. So as long as you got the right temperature water, or the right amount of minerals, or the right flow rate, you get those conditions going, and that's what you end up with.
Show them the piece of wood. Then we're going to open up our package here. We promised you we're going to open up the sock rock. And that's what we're going to do right after we see this.
So one of the things that he had in the book was examples of permineralized wood. So if you're familiar with that word, you can have wood or a dinosaur bone or something that's completely the material is completely gone and replaced, and that's different from permineralized, where some of the material still remains, but it feels like rock, looks like rock. I mean,
You may know the word petrified. That's when, if it's petrified 100%, that means there's no, any of the wood is completely gone.
so he said was in that area he found permineralized wood. So the wood was in the process. Some of it was partially turning to fossil, basically, if you want to put it that way. And so I looked carefully for examples of it. And like I said, I found a lot of fresh, wood and stuff that was coated, but I was looking to find out if there was permineralized, something that had been partially fossilized. And so what I found, like, on this side, you can see and hear, well, sorry. So that's calcite. This is bark. And in one spot, it's still soft, and I have to be careful because it's going to break off right here. It's still soft, whereas the rest of this on the bark side isn't. So it's not just coated, but the bark is calcite. It is completely stone. So there's a piece that's that's still soft and it's wood, but the rest of it has gone through the process and not just become coated. So anyway, found a lot of really cool things, had a blast, and we will do some videos on this, hopefully explaining it a little bit better.
Exactly, with some close-up photography.
Yeah, but again,
right, why don't we clear
again, if you want a cool book, get Untold Secrets of Planet Earth by Vance Nelson. He's got a series of these, and it's just a really great.
For those of you interested in getting the book, we'll have a link to where you can find it, okay?
We don't make anything off of it. We're just telling you it's a fun, cool book. He's traveled literally all over the world investigating these things for himself and getting his own photos and video. It was fascinating to talk to him. I got to interview him. So, yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and why don't we remove that from the table, because this is kind of big and gangly, and I don't want anything to happen to these fossils until we can at least get them on celluloid. Celluloid? Am I dating myself? Yeah, I am, but that's okay. All right, it's time for the rock sock right here, friends. This thing is kind of large. So this also, let me give you a real quick background. This box right here that we're going to open, it is also from Fairmount Springs in British Columbia, Canada. It's near the springs that Kristen was at, and this was taken out with a rock saw. It was cut with a blade by permission, and we purchased this from the individual that extracted this. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it weren't cool enough to know this author and personally be able to interview him, we've actually had the privilege of being able to purchase some of the things in his books. So these things you can read about them in the books. If we don't do justice to the explanation,
Get your okay.
It's awful heavy, so we're trying to figure out how to do this.
Oh, can't go any lower, can we? Okay. All right, so we're gonna attempt to cut this while we talk. You're gonna have to cut two.
Let's see here.
Cut the corner right down. That's what he suggested. Oh, I see what he did. All right, I'm gonna lift this, and then why don't you grab the box and get it? Ooh, this is heavy. Okay. Good job.
Oops.
All right. Did you see a white PVC pipe that was dumping the water into anything?
Yeah, there's two pipes. There's the, I think, like I said, the old one, and then there's another one that's dumping water continually, actually.
Okay.
I've got video footage of all that, and I will show you guys.
You want to do this with you?
Okay.
Turn it. One more time. Okay. You
You
ready?
want to do that?
Yeah. Whew. All right, this is where we got to be really a little careful.
So hopefully this survived intact without being damaged in any way.
Those of you just joining us, we're opening up what is called the rock sock, a sock that was turned into stone from the mineral springs in Canada. Now the mineral springs is no more than 100 years old. So anything that we pull out of there that's mineralized, that's human objects, it's not going to be any more than 100 years.
We have to go slow and carefully with this. This is expensive and delicate.
Yeah, it is.
And he packaged it really well and tightly to make sure that it didn't get damaged.
Are you guys ready? I know you're ready. Wow, he did a good job. Come on, guys. I want to take you on a ride here.
So here it is, and it's not just covered; it's completely turned to stone. It's an infiltrated. Oh, let me move the microphone over here. We'll look at your questions in just a second after we give you a chance to see it good. As a teenager, my socks standing up by themselves after practice.
That's the best I can do, guys, without having other equipment to be able to show it off. But let me see if I, again.
So here's the rock, and it goes down into the stone.
I mean, that sock is not just covered with a little bit of minerals, is it?
No, because there, like I said, with some of the things that I found, if in a short period of time they'll just get coated. After a while, they get completely seeped through.
I mean, that is embedded in stone. I mean, that's embedded in this calcite rock.
And again, he had to cut it out with a hacksaw, and he had permission to do that. Yep.
Well, We certainly enjoyed showing that off tonight. I appreciate you guys for being on. Sorry it took so long to get this out of the case, but this is something that's really important. We wanted to make sure we were doing this responsibly.
So just
Is it a
join what
dinosaur
is.
fossil? Isn't that interesting? No, it's
It's like that though, because instead of the cells being replaced by mineralized water and turned to stone, it's a sock. The same process happened to it. And again, this was near Fairmount. This was a hot mineral spring that had done this.
this turned into rock. We'll get some really nice, beautiful close-up videography on this and tell the story in its totality in the coming weeks. So if you, those of you that are sticking around, you guys are the diehards. For those of you that haven't already, we invite you to subscribe only because you're going to get alerted when we do this again, or when we go live, or when we actually produce and release the rock sock close-up photography and videography of it.
Yes, it's a sock and a rock.
It's exactly what it
And it went
is.
through the same process as a dinosaur fossil.
That's exactly right. It's called permineralization. So, and can I just give you one tip? Because I didn't know this. When you subscribe to a channel, whether it be ours or anyone else's, there will be a little bell next to it. Click on it and then click on the very top of it. So then you really will get alerted when something new happens on any channel you're interested in. Okay. So I guess that's it for now. Again, Vance's book, you got it there. There will be a link down in the description in case those of you want to check it out closer.
And he goes into more detail. Again, we'll do a long form video on this to explain it, but he goes into detail because he's the one that found it. He's the researcher that, again, went all over the world checking out all these different things. And so this is in his book, and we were able to purchase it off of him.
Edwin, I know it seems like impossible. It's like, come on, this isn't just like some minerals on a sock. Well, this thing is embedded in the rock itself, and it just shows that it's not time, like we're told in National Geographic and in our high school science class. It's the right conditions. And when the conditions are correct, as we believe we're correct as you're going to need them to be to produce all the strata and the fossils in the fossil record, we believe that was done through one huge major worldwide catastrophic flood, as it is depicted in many different legends throughout the world, and also in Genesis, written by the former commander of the Egyptian army, Moses.
Yeah, conditions are king. You're right.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think the biggest takeaway here: proper conditions. Proper conditions produce fossils. Proper conditions produce stalactites and stalagmites, large ones. Proper conditions produce a sock in a rock. Well, I'm John, and this is my wife, Kristen, and we always ask the provocative and important question when we get on and when we get off here at the beginning and the end of our program. Which is it? Apes, aliens, or Adam? Where did we come from? And thank you very much for attending this live. Feel free to forward this after it publishes in just a few moments to anyone you think might benefit from it. Have a good night.